My name is Anthony Grosso, and for my math final, we will be going over 2 math problems on our final review sheet. The first problem says an auditorium has 27 seats in the first row. Each row following that has 3 more seats than the previous row. What is the number of seats in the third row? And if the auditorium contains 30 rows, what is the total number of seats in the auditorium? For this, we're going to be using an arithmetic sequence. The formula for that is AN equals A1 plus n minus 1 in parentheses times d. When you plug in the values, you get A30 equals 27, which is the first term, plus 30 minus 1, which is the amount of rows, times 3, which is the difference. The math shown here comes out to 114 seats in the 30th row. For the second part of the question, you are asked how many seats are in the total number of rows. To solve this, we're going to be using the sum of an arithmetic sequence, which is Sn equals n over 2 times A1 plus An in parentheses. When you plug in the values, we get sum 30 equals 30 over 2 times 27 plus 114. This is because the first term is 27 as shown here, and An, which is A30, is shown here as 114. When you plug the math into the calculator, you get a total of 2,115 seats in the auditorium. The next problem I solved says, if sine of x equals 2 times radical 13 over 13 and tan of x is negative, find all remaining trig functions for angle x. If sine is positive and tangent is negative, we know that this is in quadrant 2. We must use the Pythagorean theorem to find the adjacent angle. We know that sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, so the opposite angle is 2 times radical 13, and the hypotenuse is 13. When plugging that into the Pythagorean theorem, we get 2 times radical 13 squared plus b squared equals 13 squared. 52 plus b squared equals 169, and when you subtract 52 on both sides, you get b squared equals 117, meaning that b is radical 117, and this is the adjacent angle. We must now find the remaining trig functions. Sine is given to us, but we must find cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is radical 117 over 13. Negative tan equals 2 times radical 13 over radical 117, and when you rationalize the denominator, you get 78 over 117. Cosecant is 13 over 2 times radical 13, and when you rationalize that, you get 26 times radical 13 over 52. Secant is 13 over radical 117, and when rationalized is 13 times 117 radical over 117. And cotangent is radical 117 over 2 times radical 13, and when rationalized and reduced comes out to 2/3. The cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, the secant is the reciprocal of cosine, and the cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. All work of the calculator is shown here.